Welcome, everybody. This is Mr. Schultz here as we dive into translating a square root vertically or horizontally. So we're going to be sliding it left, right, or up or down. So I will be able to graph a transformed square root function. So what does this mean? We are going to be limiting and cutting out half of our relation right here so that it is a function. For every input, there's exactly how many outputs? Exactly one. So if I look at this, it says graph the following functions. So I could either do it two ways. I could input like into a value right here and I go 0, 1, 2, 3, and I can get the answers. The square root of 0 is 0. Square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 2 is undefined. I can't do it. Can't do it. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of can't do it. 9 is 3. Or I can remember x squared and I can plug in 0 and I get 0. I plug in 1, I get 1. I plug in 2, I get 4. If I plug in 3, I get 9. And then I just switch them back and forth. But we're not going to be able to do this eventually. We're going to have to understand there's some tricks. So let's plug this in. At 0, 0, at 1, 1, at 4, 2, and at 9, 3. So here is our square root function right here. Trying to graph it without drawing like Mr. Schultz. So here is the square root of x. I can call this f of x, g of x. So this is a function right here. That's it. Now, for those of you who don't believe, you can go on Desmos and check it out. But we're going to graph the following. Now, it might be helpful for you to understand the following. We could plug in information. So I'm going to plug in the following points. So I know the square root of 0. So I want 0. So if I look up here, I know that if I get 0, then I'm going to get 0. I know if I get 1, I'm going to get 1. If I plug in 4, I should get 2. If I plug in 9, I should get 3. So these are not, I'm going to say, hey, I want these. But inside here, so this is, hey, the square root of my answer will equal this. But if I look at this, my input says, hey, whatever input is, minus 4 first. So if I input 0, I'll get negative 4. And I can't do the square root of negative 4 because if I look over here, that's not part of my domain here. So I'm like, okay, that's going to be a problem here. But what I can do is I can say, hey, what if I plug in 4? If I plug in 4, 4 minus 4 is 0, and I'll get the square root of 0 is 0. So my true x value is going to be 4. And let's call this g of x right here, my output. So if I plug in 4, 4 minus 4, 0. Square root of 0 is 0. Now if I want 1, well then I'm going to have to plug in 5. 5 minus 4 is 1, and the square root of 1 is 1. If I plug in, I want 4. Well, what minus 4 is 4? 8. So 8, 2. And then if I want 9, I'm going to plug in 13. So these points right here, these aren't really points. These are just my little guideline to help me out. So if I plugged in 4, I get 0. So 4, 0. And then I get 5, 1. And then 8, 2. And then 13, it's not there. But I could have drawn it if I had done it. Now, if you look at this right here, it's like, hey, look, there's all this information here. Like, I'm not using it. Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay, but like, understand that our domain is going to start at our domain is when x is greater than or equal to like 4 right here. Our range is still let's call it g of x, or y is greater than or equal to 0. That's this part right here. All right, let's go on to the next one. Now, for this one, I have a plus 2. So I'm going to have 3 parts right here. The first part is my input, my output, and then here's my answer. So I know that the square roots, the square roots I want the square root of 0, I want the square root of 1, I want the square root of 2. No, I don't. I want the square root of 4. And I want the square root of 9. Because the square root of each one of those, square root of 0 is 0, 1, 2, and 3. So what plus 2 equals 0? All right, it's going to be negative 2. What plus 2 equals 1? So I can write this out and be like, all right, x plus 1 equals, or x plus 2 equals 1, and then subtract it out and get x equals negative 1, or, do it in your heads. So I want 4. What plus 2 equals 4? 2. 7. So this part right here is just my guideline right here. It's really, these are my actual points. Negative 2 comma 0, negative 1 comma 1, 2 comma 2, and 7 comma 3. Well, let's see if I can get the next one. After that, my perfect squares are going to be 16. So what plus 2 equals 16? It'll be 12. I don't have that one. It'd be like right there. So then this would go like this. And so we can talk about it. We could say, hey, look, it's increasing, it's positive. We're going to say, hey, our domain is x is going to be greater than or equal to negative 2. Our range is still, above what, greater than or equal to 0. These are the same points. So let's talk about how they translate. How are they sliding? So if you look at this, there's a plus right here. And when it's plus, it's going to move to the left. If you look at this one, it was minus, it's to the right. So when it's minus, it's moving to the right that many. When it's plus, it's moving to the left that many. So let's try this out. So I know like minus right and plus left. This is where we get like kind of confusing. You're like, wait a second, left is right is left. So on this one, I would say, hey, square of x, but moved to the, well, is it right or left? It's plus, so it's left. Left 12 units. All right, so this is, the parent function is square root, but it's going to be moved where? Now we don't want to graph it. Move to the what and blank. No, and. Blank units. All right, fill that in. We'll make an Edpuzzle video on that, or an Edpuzzle question. All right, guys. Let's go on to the next one, okay? So it says identify the range and the domain of each function. So we already did this, but this is going to be, without looking back on the other page, please try to solve this. What is the domain and range? So the domain is for the values of x that are true. we're going to say the following. All right, go ahead and pause it. We're going to write it out. In 3, we're going to do domain and the range. All right. 3, 2, 1. All right, so for the range, we're not moving it up or down. We're just moving it right or left. So it's still going to be 0. But then if we look over here, we're going to be moving this to the left 2. So it's going to be, hey, we're going to start at 2 right here. All right, go ahead. There's going to be a question on this. Domain. Go ahead and fill this one out, okay? We're going to go on. This will be a little quick question for you on the Edpuzzle. All right, guys. So now, let's graph the following radical functions. So after the radical expression, so whatever's inside, what does it say? So if I look at this, is there anything else? Nothing. Nada. Nothing else. So move how? Leave alone. So after we move it left or right, what does it say afterwards? Nothing. So it looks like this. And remember, this is a function because the vertical line test touches it how many times? All right. Yeah, it just touches it once. All right, let's go on. So on this one, we have the square root of x. And it says, hey, plus 2. After the radical expression, so here's the radical expression, what does it say? It says plus 2. So how's it going to move? Well, if I have $0, and then all of a sudden, at the end of the statement, he's like, hey, guess what? You got $2. Well, then I'm going to go up 2. If I have at 1 is 1, if I have $1, and then it says all of a sudden it's like, hey, plus 2, well, then I'm going to go 1, 2, and add 2. If I'm at 4, comma 2, and I figured out the square root of 4 is 2, but then all of a sudden it says, hey, add 2, then I'm going to move up 1, 2. So then I'm going to get the same graph here, except not y. Why doesn't it look the same? And that's important for you to understand because, you're not going to be able to draw it nicely, okay? So just bear with whoever's drawing it, okay? So how does it move? It moves up 2 units. All right, let's go on. So for this one, let me fix this. This should be the square root and then minus 3. That's an error on my part. Sorry, guys. So after the radical expression, what does it say? It says minus 3. So instead of moving up 2, it's going to move down how many? Yeah, it's going to move down 2. Or down what? Yeah, down 3 units. So we go to our points. We know 0, 0. We know 1, 1. We need 4, 2. We know 9, 3. And then we know 16, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, that's it. So now we know it's going to go down 3. So 1, 2, 3, put the point. 1, 2, 3, put the point. 1, 2, 3, put the point. 1, 2, 3. Hey, look, here's the y-intercept right here. Here's the y-intercept. Here's the x-intercept. And so this would look like the following. Okay, so let's go on. So after the radical expression, here, go ahead and answer these. What does it say? Well, it says minus 23. So down 23. What does it say here? Plus 75. So what does this mean? Up 75. All right, go ahead and answer this in one sentence for each of these, okay? There are going to be some questions on the video right there, okay? And let's pause it for a second. And that's it for now. This one was a little bit longer, but I believe in you guys. I'll see you in class. Have a good one. Bye.